Alright, I have to wire brush these samples here of this European white oak to try to match what they have inside. It definitely looks like a reactive stain finish, but I'm going to go ahead and just wire brush these by hand to put out the soft grain. That way we can try to match that color best we can and collect some pigment into that soft grain. So let's see what we can come up with here. Alright, now you can see really well where I pitted out the soft grain using that wire brush by hand. And that's what we're looking for to match what they have inside. Alright, now I'm going to take some 120 grit paper here and sort of just lightly hand sand after I wire brush. Try to get any other marks out. I'll even try to put on a little micro dabble to match that pre-finished flooring inside of there. Each different plank of the European white oak has different amounts of tannins in them. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour some fume into this bucket right here. Go ahead and put this back on here. But I'm going to go ahead and they didn't have any of the Oil Plus2C at Galleher with the white or the 5% white. So I'm just going to go ahead and see if I could do a mixture of penetrating stain, but fuming this thing first. So watch what happens when I fume it. Just in the sun, it'll just start turning purple. This is how you get this aged look. It's a reactive stain, reactive pre-treatment. All right, see how it just kind of turns this weathered look, right? And it's the tannins. It's a chemical reaction where the tannins of the white oak are actually reacting with this pre-treatment, and this sort of gives it that dark aged look. So I'm gonna put this on and I'm gonna let this dry out in the sun here. You really do have to apply this stuff evenly. All right, you can kind of see this fume pre-treatment, this reactive pre-treatment drying out here in the hot sun in Arizona. And yeah, look at it, it's just starting to dry and it turns it with this really weathered kind of purple look. And usually what you do is you rub and apply the Rubio hardwax oil, the Oil Plus2C, into that to kind of collect pigment in the soft grain and the wire brushing. But today we don't have that, so I'm going to try to do a mixture using Country White and see what I can do. I'm not sure if it's going to work today, but anyway, this is the process of it drying after I applied the fume to it. Wow, look at how close we're getting already just with pre-treating it with fume. Definitely a reactive floor here. But I also noticed that they have hand scraping, so I only really wire brush this plank. All those planks will need to be have a hand scraping pattern match to this as well. Alright, so you see how this white has collected in the wire brushing in these pre-finished reactive oiled floors. That's what I'm going to see if this Duraseal Country White can collect in there. I've never actually tried to apply penetrating stain after fuming. This I've always used the Oil Plus2C, which is the product you're supposed to use, but let me just try this out and see what happens. Alright, I already stirred that all up, so let's see what this does. I'm pretty curious actually, this is the first time I've tried this, so. Alright, well, so far I don't see a weird reaction or anything, but obviously you wouldn't be able to tell that yet until after the fact. So let's go ahead and put it in there, and you see I can tell that the white's just going to be collecting right in that. Yeah, I'm afraid that I don't know. I think that with some extra matte finish on it, we might have just got lucky on the first try out the gate. Alright, I don't see it picking up all the pigment in the pitting from the wire brush when I use the actual penetrating stain, the Country White, and it kind of milked out that board right there. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to try to double stain it with something closer to this color here, maybe an aged barrel or something like that. See if somehow it'll still keep that soft grain and the pitting a little bit highlighted with adding a little bit more pigment to the top of the hard grain. All right, let's see what happens if we add some aged barrel as a double stain, as a second stain to this. See if it still keeps the white in the wire brushing. All right, let that sit for a second. Let's go ahead and wipe that off. That made it a lot closer, although I still don't see exactly the... Oh, I guess there's some white in that pitting. And that depends on different planks on how wide that grain pattern is too, so. All right, let's see if that looks any better without the milkiness of just the country white. Oh man, we are getting kind of close here, aren't we? Wow, okay. I'm actually pretty impressed that that's turning out okay like that. Yeah, I see some white collected in there. Let's take it around to some other pieces and see what it looks like. Again, this all varies from plank to plank, but man, that might have been our first try here right out the gate. All right, I'm gonna try to repeat that same process that we did with this one over on this whiter grain to see if I can see a little bit more of that white collect in there, and I'll kind of leave it on a little bit longer just to see what happens here. And get it nice and rubbed into there. All right, let's try to get, I've left it on for a little bit here. Oh yeah, okay. That might be the key, is just leaving it on for a quick minute here. Okay, yeah, I started to see that collect down in there, which is really cool. Make sure it's nice and dry rag that off. What I want to do is kind of let that white sit in there and cure for a few minutes here. I might just take it out in the sun and let the sun, the Arizona heat, bake it. All right, like I said, I'm gonna let this thing kind of bake in the Arizona sunshine. See if I can get that white pigment from that country white down in that wire brushing and soft grain to just kind of cure really quick, and then I'll try to put that aged barrel over it here in a few minutes. All right, so I let that sample just bake out in the sun with the country white solely on it, and now it still looks a bit milky compared to the existing pre-fin oiled floors here. So now I'm going to give it a shot by trying to second stain it here with this aged barrel. So let's see what happens here. Last time it did pretty good, but I feel like the white wasn't allowed to dry quite long enough. Coming back in with the aged barrel, and look, you could still see the white pigment caught in the wire brushing right there. So let's see how it looks over near everything else. Okay, we're in there. I think we're in that range.